Well, you know, one of the highlights of our trip to California recently was the wedding that I was asked to officiate at. It's kind of like going full circle. In 1983, I had performed the wedding for Jerry and Marta Lear, two good friends of ours, and now in 2017, I was officiating at the wedding of their youngest son. People don't get married as fast as they used to, so they're still waiting for their oldest son to get married and all that. But anyway, I had to admire the young couple. They had been in England, where Joel's fiance is in the last year of her PhD program, and he works as an IT guy, so it doesn't matter where in the world he is when he's actually doing his work with folks. So they had flown in from England, and they were in LA, and in a day or so they were going to leave for Australia and New Zealand in a whole other hemisphere, not just another time zone, and I expect a whole different day. So I'm not sure where they actually were or where their feet were grounded. But anyway, we were assured once the wedding was over, which went really well. You know, if I can tell you a secret, I do weddings really well, but in part it's because I'm always nervous ahead of time. I don't ever want to phone it in. So they assured us, you know, because I said, now what kind of music are we having during the reception? The wedding was outdoors in the California hills near Malibu Beach with the sun setting behind the mountains and bitterly cold temperatures of 65 degrees. And they said, oldies, you're going to love it, it's oldies. Well, the music got started, and we realized these are not our oldies. These are oldies for people in their 30s or 40s, you know, not like real oldies. And somehow, you know, I couldn't, a tune began to run in my head, an oldie, which this past week has had a lot more significance for me. It's a song by the Mamas and the Papas called California Dreamin'. And when you wake up and it's -3 degrees, and you look on your phone and at your mom's house, it's 77 degrees in Rancho Cucamonga, you might be forgiven for doing a little California dreaming. You know, all the leaves are brown and the sky is gray. I've been for a walk on a winter's day. I'd be safe and warm if I was in L.A. Boy, I'd settle for leaves are brown and sky is gray instead of, you know, roads are white and bones are ice. But then the next stanza, I guess, is what's really was going on in my head this week, getting ready for this scripture. Stopped into a church, I passed along the way. I got down on my knees and I pretend to pray. You know, the preacher likes the cold. He knows I'm going to stay. California dreaming on such a winter's day. Yeah. You know, that phrase, stopped into a church, is part of another world. As a kid, I remember that our churches were always unlocked and open. And that no matter what time you went to the church, there would be old folks there who made that a part of their day. They would be there in a pew praying or worshiping or also helping to clean up or do things around the church. You recognized as a kid at your church that there were certain folks, you know, since I was Mexican then, you know, everybody was Mexican in the church. And there were just these nice little old ladies and these nice little old men, and they'd be tottering around, and they'd be not only a presence, they'd be doing things. Our churches are locked nowadays, and I'm not criticizing. You know, it's a different world. Maybe we got more expensive stuff that could be stolen, although churches were known to have objects that were quite valuable, and artwork and other things in the churches I grew up in. And not only that, but we have to be a lot more secure. Here we're locked. We have children, something very precious here. And so we try to limit access so that not just anybody can walk in without us knowing about it. Not only that, it would be every now and then somebody might walk in and it's a little creepy that somebody's here we don't know and we don't know why they're here. It's just a different world. But it's the world we have in the song, and it's the world we have in the scripture. That when Joseph and Mary bring Jesus in order to present him for a service, not that much different from our own service of dedication, a time to present a child before the Lord, that there are folks there, Simeon and Anna, who are there all the time, who live lives of faith and have an expectation that God's will can be seen in our lives. Let me, since it's just us friends here today, the kind of folks that come on a day like this, I know it's people that are pretty friendly to me. I don't bang my own drum very often, but can I say something right now? I think one thing that's been significant in all my ministries is the importance of children. Keeping children active in the, not just to be cute and on display once in a while, but to be part of the worship service. I write plays for children. I lift up children. I make it clear the noise of children is welcome in church. And if somebody is not happy with my ministry and wants to go somewhere else, they will not find another pastor who loves their children as much as I do. Sorry, I'm saying that because that's the fact. But having said that, how important children are in the life of the church. Remember, children are not the church of the future. Children are the church of right now. This scripture reminds us of something also extremely important that I want to lift up today, especially on a day when it is 0 degrees. And you really have to question whether you want to drive on those roads to come here. And that churches don't run without people whose hair is gray or gone. Churches don't run without people whose hair is gray or gone. There, Simeon and Anna are present there. Simeon is the kind of person who believes God speaks to him. And when God tells him, you will not die until you see the Christ, the Messiah, the one who all of Israel is waiting for, he calmly believes in it. And when he's told, this morning you need to get down there because he's going to be here, he goes. I don't think they had snow and ice that day. But I don't know what plans he had either or what he was doing. And when he was there, like any good grandparent, he speaks up. You know, the idea of a grandparent is pretty simple. It doesn't involve DNA. It doesn't involve a genealogy. It's anybody who cares for a child and sees their own future entwined in that child's life. That's why folks go to see ball games, whether they're related or not. That's why they ask how the child is doing, because they know this is our life. It's fun to think about a spring that we shall never see, but they will. And so he feels free to speak out. Now you can let your servant go in peace, my Lord, because my eyes have seen your salvation, which is now going to be present before all the people. In this child we'll see the rising and the falling of many. And listen, every mom knows that every child is not only the source of joy, but also pierces their heart at times too, because there's no easy way to do it, and we have to call parenthood as we see it. Mary and Joseph are amazed that even though they are strangers, 3 days' walk from their hometown in Nazareth, a nobody, the church cares about them and their children. and that somebody like Simeon, for whom the church door is always open and whom it's important to spend time there, wants to say something. And then we come to Anna. You know, it says here that Anna's 84, but we're not reading it right. What it's saying is Anna was married, probably around the age of 14. She was married for 7 years. That makes her 21. And then she had 84 years of widowhood. Anna is 105. She is not 84. Anna is an ambassador from another age, another world. Whenever you have met somebody from another century and recognized that in their smile you're seeing a reflection of a sun that rose, for us in the early 1800s or in the late 1800s or the early 1900s, that whatever it is, you realize, my goodness. I remember knowing a man who died at the age of 108, who was born before flight, and antibiotics and everything else, and recognizing here's an ambassador from another time. And yet he's interested in me as I am interested in him. Anna sees the child and goes out of the church to tell everybody. And who are sometimes our best ambassadors for the church? Those folks whose hair is getting gray or getting gone. You know, I could guess this morning when the weather was really rotten who I would see, and I was pretty much right. And I had to say, what's Roger doing here on a day like this? But we knew he would be here, right? And some of you others. So even as we celebrate children and say how important it is, I want to say how important it is that you took the time this morning to be here to worship your God and to be present and visible doing it. A church with older folks is not dead. It is alive. And now that we're at the place where that front part of our brain that has the brakes, you know, that keeps us from saying dumb stuff is no longer working, we feel free to talk about our church too and say exactly what we think and what we like and what bugs us. And that is a blessing and a gift we give as well. The church is composed of people of all generations, and all of them are important. Mary got to hear how important her child was. And as she raised him, as it says, he grew up in favor with God and with people. It's because he didn't live in an isolated enclave where we keep children segregated from adults, middle-aged, older, and everything else, but because we threw us all together in the mix, because we're all on this journey together to God's kingdom, and it matters. It matters. Now, as I said at the beginning, in that oldie, they talked about walking into a church. We're not going to be able to keep our church door unlocked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're just not. And neither are most of our fellow churches. But the question is, how is our church open all the time? It's open because you are out in the world. You are living the life Jesus calls us to. You are talking about the life Jesus calls us to. And if you say something as simple as, yeah, I was in church on Sunday, maybe you don't think you have made a great evangelical statement. Maybe you haven't led somebody down the Roman road or talked about the 5 steps to salvation. But what you have said is that part of your week includes the time you give back to God in worship, prayer, and praise. That is a powerful statement. It may seem understated, but it also makes it clear what your priorities are. In another scripture that's used on this Sunday from Isaiah, the prophet says, "For Zion's sake, I will not keep silent." Simeon is not silent. Anna is not silent. And together, they let this couple from an obscure little town 3 days walk north of the big city of Jerusalem, that they are important, their child is important, and destined for the rising and falling of so many. God bless you. Thanks for getting in your cars this morning. Thanks for making it here, even as they wiggled a little bit on some of those county roads. And please, y'all be careful driving back as well. I may do a little California dreaming, but my heart is here in the ice and the snow and the cold, and I am cheered and encouraged by your presence and your prayers, as I hope you are by mine. Amen.